Hello, in this video, I am going to go over the cards that I would include if I was going to build an Anti-Venom Horrifying Healer deck, or a Verilax the Havenskin if you're playing through Beyond Pass online. First up is Pariah. For 2 and a white with an enchantment or with enchanted creature, all damage that we dealt to you is dealt to the enchanted creature instead. So all of the damage that we dealt to you by your opponents attacking you or hitting you with lightning bolts get dealt to Anti-Venom, which just turns into more plus and plus or counter swarm. And the same effect is available on Pariah's Shield for 2 colorless with an artifact equipment with equipped 3. And I am going to build this with an equipment sub-main later in the deck tech. I'll get to that. But this is a good include in that deck. Phyrexian Vindicator. If damage we dealt to it prevent that damage, when damage is prevented that way, it deals that much damage to any other target. So you can also use this as a blocker, or if it attacks and is blocked, damage is dealt to it, it's prevented, and instead dealt to Anti-Venom, which is prevented and gives him plus and plus encounters. So it's another way to take advantage of that ability. Repentance, 2 and a white for a sorcery from Tempest. Target creature deals to itself damage equal to its power. So target creature deals damage equal to itself, equal to its power. And Anti-Venom, it literally just doubles it. Because if it's 5 with 5 plus and plus encounter, so it's a 10-10, it would double to a 20-20, which is 1 power away from being lethal on attacks. Next, I have Inquisitor's Flail for 2 colorless. It's an artifact equipment. If equipped creature would deal combat damage, it deals double that damage instead. If another creature would deal combat damage to equipped creature, it deals double that damage to the equipped creature instead. And it has equipped 2. So if Anti-Venom is blocked or blocks, the damage dealt to it is doubled. So you would get that many plus plus encounters, plus that many more plus and plus encounters. And that is good. Again, later in the video, I'm going to go over some equipment cards, and a couple of these are equipment that you can go tutor up. Bastion Protector, 2 white. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So now it's indestructible, and it prevents all the damage dealt to it. So it literally have to be exiled. So giving it hexproof is important. You can put Swiftfoot Boots or Lightning Greaves in deck to give it hexproof or Shroud. So indestructible and prevent all the damage is going to make it very hard to deal with, unless, again, they exactly exile it. Same with Flawless Maneuver. Your commander, once it's in play, is going to be hard to remove unless it's destroyed. And this is a way to protect it from being destroyed when someone goes to murder it or cast a different destroy spell on it. Flawless Maneuver for free can protect our creature and give it indestructible. Pretty good. Or playing mono white, so destroying all non-white creatures is going to be good. Now, I am going to go over some colorless cards you can reanimate with Anti-Venom. Horrifying Healers enter the battlefield effect that Mass Calcify would kill. But if things are going that poorly, it's probably okay just to wipe the board and keep your commander and your other white cards around. Getting into those creatures that would be good to reanimate. On the Enter's ability, if he was cast, you return target creature card from your the battlefield. Amiria Shepherd is 5, a white and a white for a creature angel 4/4 with flying. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters a battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. So if you can get this in the graveyard in the early game, you can reanimate it using the Anti-Venom ability. And then because the majority of your land base, you're going to play 30, 33, 35 lands in this deck. And 25 of those are going to be plains and the rest are going to be utility lands. That's a very high percentage of your lands that are going to return a different non-land permanent card from your battlefield to the graveyard, which is going to be great. Avacyn, Angel of Hope, 5 white for an 8/8 legendary creature, angel with flying, vigilance, indestructible, and it gives other permanents you control indestructible. This is super good to reanimate off of Anti-Venom's ability, because like we already talked about, indestructible makes this thing only die to exile removal, which is very good. Reanimating this off of Anti-Venom will very much hurt your opponents a lot. Anti-Causal Vestige, 6 colorless for a 7/5 creature Eldrazi. When this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And has Warp 4, so you can cast it in the early game, but the turn before Anti-Venom, and then whenever it leaves, you can put something else in play, which is pretty nice. So, yeah, I like it, and I think it would be good to reanimate as well. Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, for 4 and a white. It's a 4/7 with Vigilance. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, That ability triggers additional time, and permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. So, Anti-Venom has an enter the battlefield ability. Now, if you were to reanimate Elish Norn, you would not get to copy that enters ability. But in every other situation where you get to return 2 things is going to be very good. Plus, just the incidental value of your opponent's things not triggering is going to be good for you. It's going to be good. I play Elish Norn in all of my enter battlefield or flicker decks, bounce decks, not bounce, but flicker decks, ephemerate builds. It's very strong in anything that has entered the battlefield, and white does have some. Elish Norn Grand Cenobite. 5, a white and a white for a 4/7 legendary creature Praetors. It has vigilance. Other creatures you control get +2/+2. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. Reanimating this on turn 5 from your Anti-Venom, turn 4 if you're lucky, is going to kill all of the cards your opponents have probably played up to that point, unless you're playing against a Gruul or Greed Stompy deck. Everything's going to have 2 toughness. Even the 1-drop cap add mana creatures that are 1/2s are going to die to this. Your Llanowar Elves, your early game commanders, your 3/2s, your 3/1s, all of those support cards go out the window, and Elish Norn kills them all, while buffing our cards, which makes Anti-Venom only the better. Anti-Venom gets +1/+1 counters put on him, so I'm going to go over a couple cards now that care about those kind of counters, like Lizelle, Valkis Champion. For 2 and a white, it's a 3/3 legendary creature Gith Warrior. If you would put 1 or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control, or on yourself, put that many +1 of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. And then choose a background. All that matters if you're playing as a commander, but every single time it gets +1/+1 counters, you get 1 extra +1/+1 counter, which isn't a lot, I would argue, because you're going to really do some crazy things with this, but just getting extra counters, plus you can just play some other +1/+1 counter cards and they'd be better, like Abzan Falconer. For 2 and a white, it's a 2/3 human soldier with Outlast, white, tap, put a counter on it, only as a sorcery, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on has flying. Anti-Venom being a flyer that just keeps getting bigger thanks to all of our effects that, double itself by dealing damage equal to its power to itself, or you can redirect all the damage your opponents deal to it. Think about, you're playing against Torbrand Nekusar decks that are dealing you damage for drawing cards, and the Pariah and the Pariah Shield makes the damage go to Anti-Venom, and now it has flying. It's going to be very deadly for your opponents since they only need 21 commander damage off of it. The Otherless is 1 colorless for a legendary artifact. When a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, you can put those counters on this artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if it has counters on it, you remove all counters from it onto target creature. So even if Anti-Venom was to somehow die, the Ozolith would keep those counters around, and same is true for a Sourceful Defense. 2 and a white for enchantment. Whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. So it would move them from Anti-Venom to a different permanent. It could even be this permanent. If you don't need it to be a creature, that would also back to removal. 4 and a white, move any number of counters from target permanent to a different permanent. So this can just keep those counters around. We're going to have spent resources to get those counters onto Anti-Venom in the first place, and we're going to want to keep those in play. And both the Ozolith and Resourceful Defense achieves that for us. Now I'm going to go into some of the equipment cards like Sangira's Aid. Sangira's Aid. For a white, it's an enchantment. You may cast and equipment spells as though they have flash. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. So Pariah Shield, the Flail, and some other equipments will go on immediately as soon as they come into play with the Aid. And this is a great card to play on turn 1. Stoneforge Mystic is a creature, 2 mana. When it enters, you may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shelf your library. 2 tap, and you put an equipment card from your hand onto the battlefield. Just another way to get equipment out of your deck. Plus, you can reanimate it and get that enters ability. Super State, 7 colorless for a legendary enchantment Ura. Enchant creature you control. It gives base power and toughness 9/9. Gives flying, first strike, trample, and haste. Whenever enchanted creature use combat damage to player, it deals damage to each other opponent. So Anti-Venom, if it gets up to 21, would deal a ton of damage. Now roll to kill the one player because it only counts as commander. Combat damage at one time. But, this thing's going to get big fast. Plus, it doesn't give a ++ boost. It literally changes the 5/5 into a 9/9. I will also say, though, that having first strike means it doesn't get counters from blocking or blockers unless those, creatures somehow have greater than 9 plus all the ++ encounters you put on this, but still seems like a lot of fun in this deck. Sword of Fire and Ice, 3 colors for an artifact equipment. If you equip 2, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and blue. Whenever equipped creature does combat damage to a player, it deals 2 damage to any target and you draw a card. Now, you, of course, could deal the 2 damage to any target, a player, a creature, land or elf, a random commander that's generating value. You can also have it deal the 2 damage to itself, prevent the damage, and get 2 power plus impulse encounters. A little bit of an edge case, but seems just a little fun. Basilisk's Collar, 1 colorless for an artifact equipment, giving your commander Death Touch and Lifelink. This thing is going to be hitting hard. And it's a healer, so it might as well have Lifelink. That's how I look at it. Leyline Axe, if it happened thrown on the battlefield, that's great. But giving Anti-Venom double strike and trample and another +1/+1 just means that one Anti-Venom gets dealt 5 damage. It's now a 10/10. You stick the Leyline Axe on it, and with its +1/+1 and double strike, it just kills on combat, which is going to be great. Next up, I want to go over some ramp pieces and cards that just generate value for this mono white deck. We're not playing great, so we need access to some ramp. And Goldmere is a card. It's a creature, so you could technically reanimate if you have nothing else to reanimate. And it taps to add whites, which can be used to cast Anti-Venom on turn 4. Mangara, the Diplomat, 3 and a white for legendary creature, human cleric, 2/4 with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a second spell each turn, draw a card. You're not playing blue. You're not playing black. You need access to card draw, and this is one of those effects in white that says, you draw cards, I get to draw cards. You do something, I'm going to tax you for it. And Mangara can work well there. Keeper of the Accord, 3 and a white for a creature, human soldier, 3/4. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, make a 1/1. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you, search your library for a basic plains card, come to the battlefield, tap and shuffle. And like I already said, those basic lands, you're going to be playing probably 20 to 25 basic planes. Unless you're playing like a sick amount of utility lands, those are the cards you're going to be playing. So, it's also insane. I recently was playing against this card, and I did not realize that it said each opponent's end step. That means it checks 3 times every go around the table, which is, like, insane. Throne of Eldraine, 5 colors, legendary artifact. Enters battlefield, choose a color. Tap, add 4 mana of the chosen color to only cast mono-colored spells of that color. We're playing a lot of white spells. We're playing mono white. 3 tap, draw 2 cards. Spend only mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. Again, you're not playing blue. You need access to card draw, and this can be ramp. You're not playing green and blue. Drawing cards. Nyx Lotus, 4 colorless legendary artifacts into the battlefield tapped. Tap, choose a color, and you add mana equal to the devotion of that color. So if you have Anti-Venom in play, this taps for 5 white, which can very quickly cast Elish Norn that doubles enters the battlefields, or get up to 10, 11, 12 mana cast for Eldrazi. Pearl Medallion, 2 colors for an artifact. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Doesn't make Anti-Venom cheaper until you have to pay the commander tax, but you're playing mono white, and this would be some access to some ramp there. In theory, if you're casting more than 1 spell a turn, it's ramp. Land tax for 1 white, it's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for the 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put to your hand and shuffle. You're going to be playing a lot of planes, you're going to need to ramp. Ishgard, the Holy See, is a land town. It can enter tapped. You turn 1, you're not going to be playing a land or else, so you can just enter it tapped. Or you can return up to 2 target artifact to your enchantment cards or give it to your hand. So there's equipment that might have been killed. Your ores that might have been killed, you can get those back. Amiria, the Sky Ruin, is a land that enters tapped. It adds a white when it is tapped for mana. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you return to a creature card to the battlefield. I will say that when making this deck, I should have considered ways to actually get these creatures into your graveyard, whether that's milling or discarding. But you're playing planes and reanimating things is going to be great. Nyx those shine to Nyx. You're only playing white, and your commander by itself would add 5 that you can use Nyxos to tap. So 2 colorless, tap, choose a color, add to your mana pool an amount of mana of that color equal to the devotion of that color. So if you have 2 mana, you get 5. If you just have your commander, which is great. Command Beacon, this cares about entering if it was cast. So you can tap, sack this land to put your commander from your hand into your hand from the command zone. So then it just costs 5 mana instead of the 7, 9, or 11 it has to cost then. Those are all of the cards that I would include if I was going to build an Anti-Venom Horrifying Healer commander deck. If you have thoughts on how you would improve this deck, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.